Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Joel, and I serve as one of the pastors here at Panama Baptist Church. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. I'm glad that you're here with us. If you're watching with us live at the 9 a.m. service, don't forget to let us know that you're here. Put a message in the chat box. That's one of our favorite times to be able to interact with one another. Not a lot of new announcements this week, so let me just remind you of a couple of things. Number one, if you're looking for information on how you can give of your offerings to the church, remember that you can do that one of three ways. You can, of course, just mail it in here to the church office, and we will take it and process it from there. You can also give online through our website at panamabaptist.org, or you can download the mobile app, tithe.ly, and give that way as well. You can find information about all of that at panamabaptist.org. I hope you've been able to get outside the last couple of weeks and just enjoy the sunshine and the warmer weather that we've had. I've heard of a lot of you that are getting together, maybe having people over for play dates, or your small group is getting together, or a Bible study, or whatever it may be, and that's great. I would encourage you to keep doing that. Be looking for ways to encourage the people around you as we continue to seek to love others in the way that God has loved us. Be looking for ways that you can be a blessing to someone. If you feel the Spirit prompting you to just pick up the phone and make a phone call to somebody, or maybe send a text or a message or an email, whatever it might be looking for ways to do that. Continue to be an encouragement to the people around you. Maybe you're getting together for somebody for coffee, or having somebody over for dinner, whatever it might be. I tell you, since we have entered into phase 3 and we're now allowed to go into restaurants now, a lot of them anyway, and sit down. I think I've been in Wegmans now 4 of the last 5 days, sitting and doing some work. But I encourage you, invite somebody along, meet somebody for coffee. Just look for ways to fellowship. Let me pray to get us started this morning, and then we'll turn it over to James and the crew for some music. But let's pray together, okay? God, we are grateful for the technology that you have given to us that allows us to interact in a forum like this one. And God, we are thankful for your mercy to us that is new every morning, that is never exhausted. Thank you for your goodness and for your forgiveness in our lives. And thank you that you love us, God, and you give us hope every day. And God, that you would put people in our paths that we could be an encouragement to. We will be looking for opportunities and ways that we can be a blessing to someone else. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, James.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live and death. Christ alone, Christ alone, what is our only confidence? That our souls to Him belong, who holds our days within His hand. What comes apart from His command, and what will keep us to the end? The love of Christ in which we stand. Oh, sing hallelujah, our hope springs eternal. Oh, sing hallelujah, now and ever we confess Christ our hope in life and death. Truth can calm the troubled soul. God is good, God is good. Where is His grace and goodness known? In our great Redeemer's blood, who holds our faith when fears arise, who stands above the stormy trial, who sends our ways that bring us nigh unto the shore, the rock of Christ. Oh, sing hallelujah, our hope springs eternal. Oh, sing hallelujah, now and ever we confess Christ our hope in life and death. Unto the grave, what will we sing? Christ He lives, Christ He lives, and what reward will heaven bring? Everlasting life with Him, there we will rise to meet the Lord, then sin and death will be destroyed, and we will feast in endless joy when Christ is ours forevermore. Oh, sing hallelujah, our hope springs eternal. Oh, sing hallelujah, now and ever we confess Christ our hope in life and death. Oh, sing hallelujah, our hope springs eternal. Oh, sing hallelujah, now and ever we confess Christ our hope in life and death. Now and ever we confess Christ our hope in life and death.
Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me. Oh, His love for me. Oh, His love for me.
I know you guys all know how to play tag, but I'm just gonna remind you of the rules because there's some people who think I change rules and stuff. So we're just gonna go over the rules. So here's how it works. One person is it, and they chase everybody else. And if you get tagged by, touched by whoever's it, then you have to stop right where you are. You are frozen and you can't go anywhere until someone who's free, who hasn't been tagged, comes and tags you. When they tag you, then you're free to start running again. Okay? Any questions?
Nope.
Any questions?
You have any questions?
No questions? All right. Who should be it?
Carter.
Carter?
I'll be it.
All right, we'll let Carter be it. Okay. So Carter, you just start right up here and give us like just a couple seconds to spread out a bit,
Okay.
and then you can come at it. Ready? Okay. Everybody ready? Go. All right. Whenever you're ready, Carter, we're ready for you. All right. Everybody tired? No. Never. Okay. Oh, you got caught too? Uh-oh. I can see this ending badly for us.
Let's go.
All right.
When I was a kid, we used to play a version of freeze tag that was a little bit more challenging, but really, really great for getting your clothes all grass stained if that was your goal. The version we played was called Stuck in the Mud. Stuck in the Mud. So it's just like freeze tag with one difference. When you get tagged, you stand there with your legs spread apart, and in order to get free, someone else has to come and not just tag you. No, they have to actually dive down and go in between your legs. So they're diving down, sliding in between your legs, and then standing back up, and off they go. Like I said, it was really great game, but a little bit more challenging. So freeze tag or Stuck in the Mud, good stuff. But this isn't a seminar in kids' games, is it? But we're going to talk about two of them today because they illustrate very well two different versions of what it means to be free. In freeze tag or Stuck in the Mud, the problem is you're stuck, right? We're stuck. The solution is to get tagged by someone who is free, and then freedom is being unstuck. That's our definition of freedom if you're playing freeze tag or Stuck in the Mud. I ran across another definition of freedom this week. Freedom, or to be free, is to be in that state of liberty that results from not being oppressed or in bondage. It's that liberty that we get when we're no longer oppressed or no longer in bondage, when we're no longer stuck. We know how to get free while we're playing freeze tag. It's getting free when we're oppressed or in bondage in real life that's the problem. That's not when it's a lot more difficult, because sometimes getting free of whatever's got us oppressed or in bondage in real life, sometimes getting free is very complicated. So sometimes it's just really hard because it's not obvious what to do. In freeze tag, it's pretty obvious. You stand there like I did, and you start waving your arms and holler, and somebody comes over here and sets you free. But in real life, often it's not obvious what to do. Other times it is obvious what to do, but it feels impossible. We know what we need to do is blank. You could fill in the blank, but it just feels impossible. Like we just don't have something we need, or we can't get to the resources, or we can't get the opportunity we need in order to get free. And we could use some help. That's what we're going to get today, is we're going to get some help. We're going to go right back to that text in John 8 where Jesus was explaining how he sets people free. So let's just jump right back in with the same conversation we were looking at last week between Jesus and the crowd. This is John 8. I'm going to start at verse 31. Then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, "If you continue in my word, you are really my disciples. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Now there it is, right there, isn't it? We have it. That's a principle. Truth sets people free. It does. Truth sets people free. It helps them get unstuck from bondage. This happens all the time. I could think of any number of examples, and you could give some of your own of a freeing truth, something that was said that just made all the difference when you got that truth. And once maybe I had a little trouble owning it at first, but once it moved from, head to heart, so to speak, boom, boy, that stuck you free, or got you free. You got you unstuck. You got you out of bondage. I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago about managing anxiety and not letting anxiety control you. And the speaker, said something. Whoa, I thought that's just so profound. I grabbed a piece of scrap paper and just tried to write it down. By the time he was done with his 40-minute podcast, I had an entire page of notes, just one after another, these one-liners that were truly liberating. It's like he took the scales off my eyes and helped me to see this is what's causing your anxiety. This is what you can do about your anxiety. This is the goal in managing anxiety. This is how to not let it control you. It was phenomenal. It was freeing. It was liberating. I felt like there was hope for becoming unstuck. Truth is what he gave me, and truth sets people free. The Bible is chock full of freeing truths, isn't it? The Bible's chock full of freeing truths, of principles. And not only do we have principles in the Bible that are so freeing, we have stories that illustrate those principles. We have positive examples and we have negative examples where we can look and we can see how did it turn out. And you can read the story of somebody who applied that principle for good and somebody who had that principle just destroy them and level them because they did not pay any attention to the principle. And so we have principles, and not only that, and do we have these stories and illustrations, but we also have applications of principles in the Bible where there's these teaching texts and they explain how this principle applies to various life situations and life settings. The Bible is full of freeing truths that help us get unstuck. So is that what Jesus had in mind when he was having this conversation on that day? Is this the type of freedom that Jesus was speaking about to the crowd on that day? Was Jesus telling them that, if they continued in his word, they would really be his disciples and they would get unstuck? That if they continued in his word, they'd be his disciples and they would get over their hang-ups, they would be able to identify those things that were holding them back and break free of them? And was he telling him that this stuff he was saying that day was the type of truths that were going to help them hack their lives? Let's go back to the text. I think you can answer it for yourself. Verse 33, the crowd answered Jesus' claim about setting them free, and they said, "We are descendants of Abraham," they answered. "We've never been enslaved to anyone. So how can you say you will become free?" Jesus responded, "Truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave of sin. A slave does not remain in the household forever." There were two things that Jesus was saying in that little response he gave in verse 34 and 35. Jesus, first is explaining what type of slavery he's talking about. He's not talking about hang-ups. He's not talking about things that need a hack. He's talking about slavery to sin. He's talking about control by sin and the consequences of choosing to sin. And Jesus explained that sinners are slaves. And slaves are not members of God's family, regardless of bloodlines or beliefs. That's the reference Jesus was doing there. He's explaining, hey, you guys are, you're right in saying that your bloodline is that of Abraham. You are a descendant of Abraham. That's true. And I know you think that means that because you came from someone who believed in God and had a covenant with God and somebody who was considered faithful and righteous, that means you are too, because you hold to the same beliefs or basic beliefs, at least, as Abraham. not entirely, but close. And Jesus explained, no. Sinners are slaves. And by the way, everyone is a sinner, so that means everyone is a slave. And on top of that, slaves are not members of God's family. They have no permanent place in the family. Sinners are slaves, and slaves are not members of God's family, regardless of bloodlines or beliefs. This kind of slavery that Jesus was talking about is going to require more than a little bit of truth to undo. This kind of slavery is going to require more than some brand new information or a new perspective to liberate and to set us free. Let's see what it requires and what it is that Jesus gives. Verse 35 again. A slave does not remain in the household forever, but a son does remain forever. So if the son sets you free, you really will be free. Jesus makes it clear that sonship is key. See, I need to not just get unstuck. I need to become a son. I need more than new information. I somehow need to become part of a family if I want to have a permanent place, if I want to get the kind of freedom that Jesus has in mind. And fortunately, in verse 36, we find out that Jesus comes to the rescue. Jesus sets people free, really free. And this new freedom, this freedom that Jesus is talking about, it includes so much. It includes a brand new identity, right? We move from being a slave to a son or a daughter of God. It includes a new nature. And our new nature has a whole new disposition, a whole new set of desires. It includes a new power source. We're no longer limited by our willpower because we have the Holy Spirit to help us. And we're no longer limited solely by the things that we understand and remember or know ourselves, because that same Holy Spirit illuminates truth and brings things to mind and helps us to understand, helps us to see things from God's perspective. And this freedom that Jesus is offering includes a new identity, new nature, new power source, but also a new motivation, a brand new purpose. It includes courage. I am a child of the King. That's a whole new thing. Let me illustrate the difference between these two levels of unstuck with another kid's game. Capture the Flag. Bethany Camp favorite. Capture the Flag has been played by folks for generations. Just in case you're not familiar with it, let me kind of review how it works. The object in Capture the Flag is, you've got people on two teams, and your goal is to cross the enemy lines, find the enemy's flag, steal it, and return to your own side without being caught, tagged by an enemy player. And if you happen to get tagged by an enemy while you're in the enemy's territory, you have to go to the enemy's jail. And there you sit. Everybody else is playing, you stay in jail. The way out, though, there is a way out. If a player from your own team can successfully cross enemy lines without getting caught himself and can tag you in the enemy's jail, then you are free. You get to go back to your own side and start over again. You get to start playing again. And by the way, the person who tagged you is also free with you. That's Capture the Flag in a nutshell. Great game, lots of fun. Now, those who were part of youth group back in the day when I got to be here as a youth pastor or were, youth leaders, I would know that from time to time we would play games and I would change the rules. One person in particular used to give me a lot of grief over that and me changing the rules. I'm going to do it again today. I want you to imagine with me, and you're going to have to use your imagination because the rule change I'm about to implement is pretty crazy. But I want to modify this game of Capture the Flag. So here are the rule changes for our modified version of Capture the Flag. In this modified version, the team captain for Team B is an idiot. And he's not really good. He dislikes his own players. And so what he does is at the beginning of the game, he puts the vast majority of his own team in his own jail before the start of the game. So he leaves a few out to chase and to tag anybody from Team A who's coming across. But the majority of his players, he's got stuck in his own jail because he just doesn't like them. Now, I know you're smart and you're going, now, wait a minute, who would do this? And that's dumb and all that. And you're also really smart and you're realizing that Team B is destined to lose. But play along with me here and just try to imagine. So here's how it is. The Team B captain is starting the game with the vast majority of his players in his own jail. But here's the other big rule change. If someone from Team A can cross over the line and run through Team B's territory without getting caught, if that person can make it all the way to Team B's jail and tag a Team B player in his own jail, that Team B player is freed not only from jail, but he's freed from being on Team B. That Team B player joins Team A and is on Team A for the rest of the game. He switches teams. So he gets out of jail and he switches teams. All right? Got the idea? Makes sense? So let's compare the two games that we've got here that we've been talking about today. You got freeze tag or stuck in the mud. In that game, the problem is we're stuck. The solution is we get tagged by someone who is free. Freedom means we are unstuck. We can play some more. In our modified version of Capture the Flag, the problem is different. The problem is we're on the wrong team if you're on Team B. Right? The problem is you're on the wrong team and we're in prison if you're a part of Team B. The solution is to get tagged by someone from Team A, and freedom in this case means you are out of jail and you're now able to play for the team that is going to win. You have a future and you can play. That's freedom. You are out of jail and you're able to play for the winning team. That's freedom in our version of Capture the Flag. Make sense? All right, let's take it up one more notch. Let's take it up to ultimate version, Capture the Flag. This is the very top level, the ultimate version, Kingdom Wars edition, Capture the Flag. In this version of Capture the Flag, Kingdom Wars edition, the stakes are even higher. Here's the changes for this version. In this version, all players except for one start on Team B. At the beginning of the game, there is one and only one player on Team A. Everyone else is on Team B, and nearly all of them are in prison. Second thing, the Team B players are in jail not only because their team captain doesn't like them, but they are in jail because they have made choices that are worthy of jail. But here's the other kicker. Anyone in jail at the end of the game goes to hell. Obviously, this isn't a game anymore, is it? One other big difference in Kingdom Wars, the ultimate version of Capture the Flag, the Team A captain rescues players from Team B, and every player that he rescues, he commissions every single one of them to be a rescuer. That's his plan. Not chasing the flag. Team A captain is commissioning every single one of his players to be a rescuer to get Team B players out of jail onto his team. And the winning team will set the rules for all of eternity. Whoa. So now let's compare our two games. Freeze tag, pretty obvious, problem, solution, freedom, what those are. In the Kingdom Wars version of Capture the Flag, what's the problem? We all started on Team B. We were on the wrong team. And we are in prison at the beginning of the game because we are all part of Team B. What's the solution? We're way beyond needing some new information or just needing someone to tag us. The solution for us who are on Team B, Jesus died to free us and to make us family. He died to free us, to get us out of prison, because that's what it took. It wasn't as simple as just running across the line and tagging us. He crossed every line and had to come to get us. Jesus died to free us. And not only does he free us, he makes us family. He makes us a son or a daughter, and we are on Team A for the rest of the game. And what is freedom? In Kingdom Wars version of Capture the Flag, freedom is the option to be a key player in Kingdom Wars on God's team. Plus, there are other freedoms. As a matter of fact, the team A captain will try to take away everything that keeps us from being able to be aware of his presence and aware of what he's doing in the world. He wants us to be free. But the big freedom that we're concentrating on today is we get that option to be a key player in Kingdom Wars on the winning team, on God's team. You know, all this reminds me of Edmund in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, that first of the Narnia books. If you've read it, you remember, or maybe you've seen the movie, you remember that Edmund, through his own greed and his own pettiness, ended up on the wrong team. He made a deal with the White Witch thinking he was going to get an unlimited supply of Turkish delight, and he was going to make his brother and his sisters recognize and that he was the great one, and they were going to respect him, and things were going to go his way, but it didn't go his way at all. He ended up being abused, and eventually at a certain point in the story, you find Edmund tied to a tree. There in the territory of the White Witch, the one to which he had sworn allegiance, but now saw for her true colors, the evil queen of Team B. He is tied to a tree. Eventually in the story, and at great cost, Edmund was set free. And then later in the story, Edmund has the opportunity to be a key player on the right team. Wow. This analogy between, using these two games breaks down in several ways. I get it. It's not a perfect analogy in any way, but I think it illustrates a profound truth. God, through Jesus, offers us a totally new and totally different level of freedom. God offers us a level of freedom that is completely on a whole different level, completely unique from just getting us unstuck. God gets us out of prison and onto the right team. And since God did all of that, he will also frequently help us get unstuck. Remember what Paul said, he who did not spare his own son, will he not also freely give us all good things? God gets us out of prison on the right team. And in addition to that, he frequently helps us to get unstuck. There's a question that I felt kind of pressed upon me this week. I felt as if God was really pushing me to deal with, to answer, to really wrestle with and answer this question. And I'm going to pass it on to you. Here it is. What level of freedom are you hoping Jesus will give you? What level of freedom are you hoping Jesus will give you? Are you hoping that Jesus will help you get unstuck? Is there some area of your life or a few areas of your life where you just really feel like you're playing freeze tag? You're stuck. Like you can't go anywhere because the anxiety's got you held down, or this issue or this conflict between you and another family member's got you in bondage, or something from your past is kind of controlling you and keeping you from being able to be all that you feel you could be, or hijacking your future, and you need some help. You feel like you need to be unstuck. Is that the level of freedom that you're hoping Jesus will give you, or are you open to something more? Are you open to Jesus looking at you and saying, yeah, I hear you, and that's a big deal, and I do care, but let's start with a really big thing. I want you to be out of prison. I want you to be on the right team, and I want to give you an opportunity to play for that team in a way that makes a real difference for the rest of the game. Because here's the deal. Jesus tells the truth, doesn't he? Jesus tells freeing truths, and he often helps people get unstuck. That's one reason so many people try to use him for that, and only that. I think the unspoken motto of most of us is KIM. KIM, keep it manageable. Keep it manageable. That's our goal in life. We just want to keep things manageable. And so, we could say it this way: a problem is only a problem if it becomes a problem. You can think about that for a minute. A problem is only a problem if it becomes a problem. As long as the problem is still manageable, it's not a big issue. It's not an issue. But Jesus, we want you to help us keep life manageable. And the fact is this, guys, Bible truth and faith and God can help keep it manageable. They can. The Bible has so much to tell us about, how to deal with anxiety and stress and where to put our hope. And the Bible has so much to tell us about how to handle our finances and how to handle family members and how to be a better employee and how to gain trust and how to let go of the past and the hurts that have held us down and how to deal with discipline and so many other things. And by the way, if you're just checking out Christianity, maybe this is new to you, I want to urge you to try biblical principles. Or maybe you're just checking out Christianity again for the second time. Maybe you kind of grew up with some of this, but now you're giving God and faith and Bible all a second chance, and maybe even church, right? I want to encourage you to try biblical principles. They are life-changing. They are freeing. Try it. I really hope you do. But know this, as much as I want you to get unstuck, my prayer is that when you try these biblical principles and you experience the little bit of freedom, that you get unstuck a little bit in this one area, you learn to communicate better, or you learn how to handle this thing with your spouse or your ex or your kid or whatever, or your boss better. My prayer is that they will lead you to Jesus. These life principles, these life-changing, these freeing principles will lead you to Jesus and the type of freedom that only He can give. For those who are watching and you consider yourself to be a Jesus follower, I want you to hear me say that, there are limits to what options you should choose in life. That is true. That is true. If your version of freedom is, I can do whatever I want without being accountable to anyone, then yeah, you're right. God will infringe on that freedom. But we talked about that last week. That's really not the best definition of freedom. That's autonomy, and that's a myth. And so for Jesus followers, there are limits to what options you should choose in life, but know that there is practically no limit to how free you can be. There is practically no limit to how truly free you can be. And I am looking forward to the next few weeks when we're going to talk more about that. But in the meantime, maybe you are just where I have been this week. You're needing to wrestle with that question. What level of freedom are you hoping Jesus will give you? You're hoping that He'll be the insider's guide, like self-help. He'll give you the secret that you need. Tell you that one thing that will make all the difference, at least in that one area where you feel especially unstuck or especially stuck and life feels unmanageable? Or are you open and hoping for more, hoping to have Him show you how Him getting you out of prison has made a huge difference, and Him putting you on His team has made a huge difference, and how you can be freed up of the things that would keep you from being a key player, from making a huge difference in Kingdom Wars? And I hope you'll wrestle with that, and I hope you'll land at the ladder freedom. I'm really convinced that's the kind of freedom we really need. That's what we crave. That's what Jesus offers. Hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for being with us. Looking forward to continuing the conversation in the weeks to come. Thanks. Have a great week.